First thing I'll do is pass out the syllabus as well as a little sheet to give me permission to return some papers, not exams, but other papers, to boxes that are just on the other side of that wall. So take one down, pass it around, that's the syllabus. And then these are the purpose sheets. On these sheets, put your name on the top, and then right here you have a checkbox for either authorization granted, which means it's okay for me to put your papers in a box, or a checkbox for authorization not granted, in which case you'll just have to get your papers directly from me. They won't be in the box. And then down at the bottom, print your name, sign your name, put the date. There's this number. That number is the number that your box number will be. So make sure you take note of that before you give it back to me. I will put it in the grade book on Moodle, so it'll look like you failed an assignment on box number. Don't worry, it doesn't count toward the grade. I just put it there so you have a place where you can refer to it if you don't remember what your box number was. So once again, take one of these and pass it back. I tried to shuffle them so that it won't be like, oh, you were next to me, so your number must be adjacent to mine. Okay, today being the first day, I'm just going to go over the syllabus and the prologue chapter of the textbook. So I should start with, an important thing. Me. I am Richard Webb. Oh, yes, look, PhD. You guys are probably more familiar. Hey, Brittany. See, I told you I knew that woman. You probably are more familiar with my wife, Amy Webb, who works up there in human development and is a wonderful, wonderful woman. My office is right across the hall here, room 134. And you can see here the office hours. It says 8:30 to 9:30 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and 1 to 4:30 on Monday and Wednesday. I don't have the schedule posted yet. I have it printed inside my office. But if I am not in class, I'll probably be in my office just about every day. And if I'm sitting in my office, I always welcome students because students are the most important thing. Grading is not as high a priority as helping a student who has a question. So if I'm in my office, feel free to come and say, hey, I got a question. Can you help me out? Don't say, his office hours don't start for another 30 minutes, so I got to wait. Okay? I want to make sure you know how to reach me. Brendan, it is Brendan, right? Yeah, Brandon. It was close. Brandon has a textbook. I don't. So Brandon, show them what the textbook looks like. There's our textbook. The textbook is available in the bookstore already. Yay! Although 1 week ago today, there were only 12 people who had signed up for the class, and so I think that's all she ordered. So there probably needs to be some more ordered. There are 2 books. There's that as well as as well as a laboratory manual that goes along with the textbook. The laboratory manual is the kind that you write on it and then you just rip out the sheets, staple them, and turn them in. So you can't get those used. And so that's going to add to the financial pain of taking a class. There's one more thing that you need to purchase besides those 2 books, and that is a Clicker account. Now, I know 3 of you already have Clicker accounts. There's good news here. Okay, now, they've changed their policy to make more money because that's what companies do. And instead of just having to have a physical clicker, now you have to have a subscription. And with that subscription, you can either use your smartphone or a clicker. So if you have a smartphone, don't go buy a clicker, right? Everybody understand that aspect? Because I don't want people to spend money they don't need to. With the smartphone, you just download the ResponseWare app, and once you have your account, which you do have to buy, then you'll be able to log in and answer the clicker questions that I'm going to be giving throughout lectures. Not today, because obviously people aren't ready. But the good news is there's a rebate for this year. So the rest of you who don't have a clicker account already, on Moodle, on the home page of Moodle, when you log in, the page that shows all the classes, it has the information on how to claim your rebate. And so you'll have to come up with the money, which is something like $22, and then fill out the rebate form and send it in, and you'll get your money back. So that's a temporary expense. I don't like all these charges. In my other classes now, you're the only class that doesn't have a free textbook. Sorry. Because it's better for students, right? Yeah. Okay. Class times, a student pointed out, I had a typo on the syllabus. I had the lab going for just 50 minutes instead of 2 hours and 50 minutes. So the lab will meet here from 2 to 4:50 on Thursday afternoons. Now, this brings us to a policy thing. We have a building-wide policy that if you have a black desk, black tabletop, then you're not allowed to have food or drink. And yeah, it says it outside the room. No food or drink in here. I can have it here because this isn't black, but not here. Now, there's a reason for this policy, and for the first time ever, I'm going to have to start enforcing it this year. The reason is, if you have a chemistry or a biology lab, then you're going to have things that are potentially hazardous, and you don't want people ingesting those. And so, since things are going to get spilled on the tabletops, we don't want you then, getting that mixed with your food and getting it in your mouth. And so I will be much more enforcing of no food or drink at your tables because of the contamination factor this semester. And it's because of your class that I have to worry about this. Because in physics, all we do is use hot water. That's not a problem. So I know everybody likes to have water. I'd like to take a drink right now too, and I could, but question.
So if you really wanted water, you walk up to your desk.
Yeah, or you can put it over here in the corner and go grab it. Yeah. It's just, it's a safety reason. Okay, things about the course. This course is the first time I've ever taught it. I'm a physicist. Physical science is basically comprised of 5 areas. Our textbook writes it as 4 areas because there's very little on the 5th area. It's physics, which is what we're going to cover for the first third of the class or so. Then chemistry, which is what we're going to cover for the next third of the class or so. And then you have what we generally think of geology, earth science. And the textbook uses earth science because it includes meteorology in the earth science section rather than having a separate section on meteorology, which actually makes me feel good because I don't know anything about meteorology. I went to a conference this summer to try to learn something about it since I'm going to be teaching it. And then the final one is astronomy. Now, I have taught geology in the past. I obviously have taught physics in the past. And I teach astronomy, and I've taken a lot of chemistry, So I should be fine with the topics. Those are what we're going to learn. Now, with that many topics, there's a real downside. Speed. We're basically going to be doing a chapter a day. And I'm not comfortable going that fast. But that's the way it's set up. So we're not going to learn a lot of depth about materials. We're going to learn instead a little about a whole lot. So at the end of the semester, I hope that, number one, you'll be able to identify those major areas of physical science. What were they? I know. Probably nobody's paying attention. Yeah. Physics, chemistry. Chemistry. Earth science, which our textbook uses that term so it doesn't have to list meteorology separately. And then what was the final one? Astronomy. Now, you guys know the first day of school next year is going to be a sweet day for astronomy, right? No? No. That wouldn't be as exciting. There's going to be a total solar eclipse viewable here in Lincoln, Nebraska. So Marcia Nornmeyer and I are supposed to get together our big party celebration. I want to get solar glasses so you can look at the sun and everybody can go out. It's going to be really cool. That's astronomy. Okay, so you'll be ready for that, kind of. Okay. Item number 2 of my objective. And this one really really is important to me. In a class like this, where I probably have a lot of people who are taking education, how many people here are taking education? Okay, besides Brittany, is there anyone who's not? Are you're not? Oh, you are. I did see your hand. Okay.
I was low.
It was low. She was like, oh, casual. Okay, so if you're going to be a teacher, you're probably going to be at some point, okay, so we have science class. And it's really important to me that somebody who's teaching science class knows what science is about, right? You can't know everything in science, right? You're not taking a lot of science classes. You're taking like 2. But knowing what science is about, that's really important. And so we'll have that covered today in the prologue. But basically, we're going to spend a fair amount of time emphasizing the scientific method, the method by which scientific knowledge is gained and understood. Because whether you're doing, an experiment where you're studying earthworms in the soil for first graders or making the lava, thing for, 7th graders, just understanding the science and what it means is going to help you be more effective in passing it on to the students and making their experience valuable. So that's really, really important to me. The other things there, be able to take scientific data and draw conclusions based on the information. I think we all saw in the last year and a half of electioneering that a lot of Americans kind of fail at this getting information and figuring out what it means. And in a science class, that's what we're trying to develop, generally speaking. We want to understand the world around us. And that means we look at the information and then we have to sort it and make some sense of it, and not just say, he or she's bad. You'll have to solve some problems. The math in this class will be really minimal, but you will have to do some math. So you can't say, no math here. There will be a little. And the last one, I assume everybody already understands this, but science is really beneficial for us. Really simple things like the fact that we have a projector here. We could watch a movie. It's all about science. We have cars, and those cars can actually move themselves without me having to get out and push, if it's a good day. And, they got radios. They can play sounds that are coming from somewhere else. I can have a satellite radio and play sounds that are coming out from space. Understanding how science benefits us, and those are not really as beneficial as, let's say, our advances in health science. But I want people to understand that it's actually useful stuff. It's not just, some people say, science is hard, math is hard. Yeah, it's very useful. That's a lot of time. I've got to hurry up. Classroom decorum is pretty simple. Okay, so I assume most of you will be using your smartphone for the clickers, which means you're going to have your cell phone on, right? But don't be sitting here texting people or checking up on Facebook or, reading the latest about whatever. The Raiders lost Sabbath, so no football concerns anymore. But, whatever you got going on. Oh, and I do have down here accommodations. If you have a learning difference, it's your responsibility to go to the TLC and make arrangements for whatever accommodations that you need. And then they let me know, and I do whatever I'm told. So if you have a learning difference, start there. Academic integrity is fairly simple idea. Don't cheat. But sometimes people get confused about what it means to cheat. So I have Brandon and Vanessa. So let's suppose they're good friends. I don't know. And so they go and they're going to do their homework together. Is that appropriate? Yes, it is. I encourage you to work together with somebody. As we learned from Steve Martin, 2 brains are better than 1. So you might have Brandon totally understands this topic and Vanessa's a little unclear. But Vanessa totally understands this topic and Brandon's a little unclear. They can teach each other, and when you're teaching somebody else, you're going to improve your own understanding. So that is good, and I encourage it. What I don't encourage, what is cheating, is for Brandon to say, oh yeah, I already did my homework, here it is, just copy it. Why is that cheating where working together and teaching her is not? Because in that case, if she does what Brandon suggested, which you would never do, right? No, she'd never do that. If she does that, she didn't get the learning experience. She just wrote down stuff and didn't have the actual thinking things through and organizing and understanding. And so it's cheating her out of her learning, and it's dishonest because then she's turning in what's not really her work, but it's Brandon's work. And I'm sorry I used you as an example here because I don't expect just to make it so it's concrete. So other things that would be academically dishonest. For some reason, I went to Brainly over the weekend. And people ask these questions, and I love to explain answers. And so I try to explain them without giving them the actual answer so they actually have to figure it out. But you could, go to a site like Brainly or whatever, and you could just type in your homework problem. A lot of people do that. And then someone will just tell you the answer and you put it down. Well, that's not learning. That's copying. That's also cheating. Right? So if you can have somebody explain it to you and you learn it and you process it and you put it down in your own words because you understand it, that's not cheating. But if you're just, got the answer from here we go, I don't know why, that is. Now, it's hard to identify that kind of cheating, but I want to make it clear. Other things, obviously, if you look at somebody's test while you're taking the test, that'd be cheating, right? If you check your cell phone during the test, which has happened, that would be cheating. Because of that, I have a rule that during tests, you simply have to leave your cell phones up at the front of the room. If you have your cell phone with you, I just give you a 0. Don't have to have evidence that you used it. Make it real clear at the beginning so everybody understands that. Don't say, I didn't know. Just make sure you don't have your cell phone with you during exams, and then we don't have to worry about a potential problem there. A last one that came up last year, when you're doing the clicker questions, sometimes a person will step out and a clicker question comes up. I mean, they're in the lecture, they're scheduled. It's not like I'm targeting, but if somebody goes to the bathroom and a clicker question comes up, every now and then somebody's all, well, it's not fair that they can't answer this question. I'm just going to answer for them. Well, that's not honest, right? It's supposed to be the clicker questions are there to show that you are engaged with the class and responding and thinking through things. Putting it in for somebody else, that's not honest. So what happens if you get caught in one of these things? Hopefully not a single person does. If you do, we have a Union College Academic Integrity Committee, which unfortunately I'm on. If one of my students is involved, I am removed from the committee and somebody else takes my place. And they will deal with the situation. So the last page of your syllabus actually has the academic integrity policy, and you should have it in every class's syllabus. So what makes up your grades in this class? First, we have clicker participation. 5% of your grade is just based on participation. Now, there are actually 2 pieces to this. Piece number 1, if you answer 2/3, actually 60%, of the questions that are given in class on any given day, you will get credit. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, because I'm not looking for you to understand material every time I ask a question. What I'm asking for you to do is to think about it and relate what you think the answer is. The goals of these clicker questions are to kind of put you on a number, to use poker language. You say, I got this idea, and I really think it's this one. And then after, we'll reveal what the answer is, and if you're right, then you have some confirmation, yeah, that makes sense. Or if you're wrong, then you have to face the cognitive dissonance, right? You guys are education majors, you learned about all this stuff, where I thought it was this, but it's this. Why was it not this? And it helps you in the learning process to go through that. So the first part of the grade is just a participation. Every day, not today, because only 3 people would be able to respond. But every day after today, so make sure you have your clickers all taken care of by Wednesday. I am very weird at how I pronounce Woden's Day. Somehow Woden's Day got turned to Wednesday. And if you get 2/3, so like, let's say you have to go to the bathroom. If we have at least 3 questions, you're still going to be good. If we only have 2, you're going to be, missing out on that day's credit. The second thing is, after a question has been asked, before I reveal the answer, I will randomly pull a card that has somebody's name on it, and I will say, Brittany, what did you answer and what was your reasoning? And then I'm going to give a qualitative score on your response. So it's not that you have to be correct, but you have to show that you thought about it. And so that's what I'm looking for in that. And so your grade will be 5 points out of that and 30-some points out of the participation part. For the clickers, I take a long time on these things. That's the clicker part. Potential test questions. Not today, but in every lecture after today, you will have to write down what you think would be a good test question based on my lecture of the day. Not based on the textbook, based on my lecture. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to grade those for the originality of the question. My originality method is simple. If it's a question that I find in the textbook, you get a 0. Because that's not a question you wrote, it's a question you copied from the textbook. If somebody else had fundamentally the same question, then you lose a point. If 2 people, you lose another point. And so that's how my originality is. It's just, try to think of something that other people won't be thinking of. So that's one part, originality. So 5 points there. 5 points for being on topic. If it's something we talked about that day, you get 5 points. If it's something that we did talk about that day, but that we had talked about like in the last lecture, I'll give you 4 points. If it's something that we didn't talk about at all, well, 0 there on the relevance. The last one is the quality of the question. Sometimes you can make a question that's too hard and no one's going to get it right. It's not a useful question. Sometimes you can make a question that's too easy. You don't have to know anything. Everyone's going to get it right without any knowledge. Right? So the quality is this a question that has reasonable discrimination? The people who understand will get it right. The people who don't understand will get it wrong. So that's where the quality part of the calculation is. So it's a total of 15 points. Each lecture where I am presenting material after today, you'll turn in a paper at the end of the class period. So I'll give you paper, and you'll turn in that paper, with your question written down. They have to be multiple choice questions, not true and false, yes, no, multiple choice. And you don't have to have the correct answer or the multiple choice answers. Although oftentimes it helps me to understand what you're trying to ask for the question if you have the answers filled in, so I can say, yes, I see what they're getting at, right? You guys have had that experience when you take tests, right? The answers help you identify what the question was really asking. Okay, next part, quizzes. I will try to give a quiz on average once a week. I tell you clearly, I fail at that. I never give enough quizzes, but I will try. The quiz questions will come exclusively from you. I will write none of them. They will all be written by you as your potential test questions. So once again, those potential test questions are questions coming back at you. So you want to make sure you're going to be able to get it right for sure. And it's always a little disappointing when somebody gets their own question wrong, because it does happen. So those first 3 things are each 5% of your grade. Then 10% of your grade is homework. There are homework assignments basically every week. I believe they're due on Wednesday. Well, let's see. Yes, they're due on Wednesday. And the first homework assignment here, it just says HW01. Homework number 1 will be due on my sister's birthday, January 18th. Now, what is homework 1? If you look on Moodle, it's already posted. It tells you which questions they are in the textbook, and I typed them in. So you have the questions all listed for you there on, did I say Facebook instead of Moodle? Okay. When you get old, you start making mistakes. You can't trust yourself. So the homework, the first assignment's already there. There are 2 questions on the homework assignment that are from today's lecture. So after today's lecture, you should be able to answer the one on the scientific method, and I think the one that is which one is a scientific hypothesis or a scientific statement, something like that. So there are two of them you'd be able to do after today's lecture. Each problem will be 10 points. Doesn't matter if it's a hard problem or easy problem. Each one will be worth 10 points. With those problems, you must demonstrate your process and thinking. So if you, for instance, which one of these, and it's not only one necessarily, is a scientific statement. If you just say B and move on, you get nothing. You need to say A is because of this, B is or is not because of this, and so on. And clearly I don't know what A, B, and C are right now, so I'm not giving you answers here. But you have to give reasons. If it's a calculation, you need to show your math, not just put the number. I think it's odd problems. The answers are in the back of the book. But the answers aren't what I'm looking for. It's the thinking, the process. So homework, if you turn it in on paper, it's due at 5 p.m. at my office. Or you can upload a PDF to Moodle. And if you upload the PDF, then you have until, excuse me, until 11:55 p.m. So you have more time to do it on Moodle. It's easier for me if you turn it into PDF because then I grade it on a tablet and never even has to see paper. But I do request that it's a PDF form because if it's like a Word document, I have to open it in Word, save it as a PDF, and it takes a lot of extra time. Okay, homework is 10% of your grade. Laboratory is 25% of your grade. We'll have laboratory starting Thursday of this week, every week. And the laboratory experiments should be things to help us understand what we're doing in class. So in general, I'll try to have the topic of the laboratory matched up with the topic we're doing in class. I don't have the lab book yet, just like you. I have the third edition, right? It's sixth edition now. I have the third edition, and I chose a topic for the first lab from the third edition, assuming that topic still exists in the sixth edition. If the books are not in the bookstore by Thursday, I'll just photocopy what I have and we'll use my photocopy. By next week, for sure, you should have the books in the bookstore. Then we have midterm exams. There are 3 midterm exams. The first one is over physics. The second one is over chemistry. And the third one is over earth science. Pretty much just earth science. The third one doesn't cover much. And then there's a final exam that will cover everything, putting an emphasis on astronomy because it wasn't covered on the previous exams. So we have 3 midterm exams and a final exam. Each midterm exam will be equal, so that means they'll be 10% each. And then the final exam is 20%, so it's worth 2 of the regular exams. Now, there are 2 things I didn't talk about because they're extra credit. The top one here, lecture assistance. I will try to, not today, but most lectures have a demonstration, something where you actually do something or see something done that you then try to understand and explain why it occurred. And as a way to get students involved, if you want to be part of doing the demonstration, you have to arrange with me and come before class sometime, we arrange the time, and we'll spend somewhere around 15 minutes going over what you're going to do to demonstrate to the rest of the class in that lecture. And then during the lecture, you'll come and you'll say, okay, so here we have a Van de Graaff generator. Van de Graaff generator for the next class. And it works like this, and look, I shocked the bejesus out of me. And then if you do a good job, which most people do, I give you 100% for it or a total of 1% extra credit on your grade. You can only do this once. So you can't I'm going to raise my grade 10%. We're going to do this over and over and over. But it's a chance to get some extra credit. The other extra credit is on attendance. My attendance policy, this dates back some 13 years ago or so. I read cover to cover the faculty handbook, and it said teachers were responsible to take record in class. And I'd had problems with these students came to my astronomy class. less than half the time. And then they complained, he doesn't teach anything. We didn't learn. Well, if you came to class, you probably would have learned more. But I didn't actually take record. All I had was like my quizzes, we're only there for 30% of the quizzes as, a way of showing that they'd been there. And I saw that it's my responsibility to take record. So now I take record. I told all the faculty when I was chair of faculty senate that it's required for us to take record, and it got removed from the requirements because nobody wanted to have that as a requirement. But I still take record. And in general, philosophically, I don't really believe in effort points. I believe that your grade should be based on, what you accomplish, what you achieve. But the attendance is where I give effort points. You are allowed to have a maximum of 1 excused absence for a school activity per hour of lecture we have in a week. So that means you're allowed 3 excused absences for school activities. That would be like a gym nares or, being on varsity team and having to be gone. How many people knew that? Yeah, none. Anyway, so I take that as my guideline, and I say if you have no more than 3 absences, and otherwise you're always on time, then I'll give you an attendance bonus, an effort bonus. And I make it a yes or no question. It's binary. You either get it or you don't. So if you're 1 point off, you don't. And I make that a 2-point bonus. Or not 2 point, but 2%. So if you have what I consider perfect attendance, that is no more than 3 absences, then you get that. Now, the way I calculate it is each day is worth 3 points in attendance. If you're here at the start of class and you're paying attention during class, you're not sitting there texting, whatever. You don't, and I've had people do this, you don't leave after 10 minutes and go to the cafeteria and get yourself a meal and then come back for the last 10 minutes. Yeah, you get the full 3 points. If you come within the first 5 minutes, you're not here at the start of class, but you're here close to the beginning, you get 2 points. If you're more than 5 minutes late, or if you're sitting there on your phone, or if you take a long extended absence during the middle of class, then you get 1 point. And if you're gone, you get 0. So, even if you're tardy, it counts a little. And with that, since you could lose 3 days and each class is worth 3 points, then you can lose a total of 9 points and still get the 2% boost to your grade. So that's my effort thing. If you're excused versus non-excused, I don't want to be the judge. So I simply consider your first 3 absences for whatever reason to be excused. And then after that, So excused, I can mark things down as excused or absent in my record taking, but it won't make a difference to your grade. They count the same. It's just the first 3, whichever way, count as excused. If you miss more than 18 points, which is equivalent to missing 2 weeks of school, then I start removing credits. That's because, you got to have the carrot and the whip, right? So, there's that. And of course, if you stop attending completely, then you get the failed not attending grade, FA. I've actually had to use that once. Guy's last name was Webb, no less. Broke my heart. So, it's never good for your GPA to just stop attending a class. The reason we have that FA is actually for financial aid reasons. It's not good. It's better to get an F for financial aid than to get an FA. So any questions about the things that make up your grade? Okay, I do have one more thing I just realized I forgot. The test questions will come about 50% from the textbook's test database and 50% from the potential test questions that you turn in. And now I'm going to give you a little clue. When I grade your potential test questions, if I put a little red scribble mark in the corner, that means it's going into the questions that might be used on a test or on a quiz. So if you get one of those, make sure you understand the questions that have the red tabs on them. Okay? That's so I can give them to a secretary and they can type them in. Yeah. The final exam is cumulative, but it puts a little extra emphasis on astronomy because astronomy isn't covered on the other exams, but it is definitely cumulative. Yes?
Do you do study guides?
Study guides like for tests or
just like any kind of like, these are the key concepts you need to know?
the textbook in the back of each chapter, it has those things. So I don't do them because I figured they're already there. Yes.
So when you choose the potential test questions for our test, are they usually the ones that will come from the quiz that we have already taken?
What I'll do is for each lecture, I will go through and say, ooh, this is a good one. This one here, I'm not going to use. And so I might end up with 3 to 5 questions from each lecture that go into the database. When I make the quiz, I draw from that database. When I make the test, I draw from the database. So they might be used on a quiz, they might not have been used on a quiz.
So the tests won't always be the same because you don't know how many questions you may like or not like, or will they usually be the same amount of questions?
The tests will usually have somewhere around 40 to 50 total questions, with half of them coming from potential and half of them coming from the textbook. The goal is to make sure the test is short enough that you can finish it in time, but broad enough in coverage so if you miss this one topic, it doesn't kill you. Yes?
The potential test questions that we turn in, do we give those to you at the end of the
At the end of the lecture, yes. Yeah.
Not the next day?
Correct. At the end of the lecture. Because the idea is it's based on what you just had given to you, not based on reviewing later. Take less time. Yes, Brittany?
Okay, so I know that you said that when we do our potential test questions, they're going to be multiple choice.
Yes.
So when we're taking the test, are we supposed to kind of explain our thought process after choosing our multiple choice question?
On the tests, no. The tests only in 100 level introductory general education type courses like this do I do that, but it's just going to be graded on Scantron. Except for there will be like one question that won't be, but just one, and you'll know. That one, for the first exam and the final exam, I've already gone through everything here. The first exam and the final exam, you will have the same basic question, which asks you what is the scientific method, and then asks you to apply the scientific method to a specific situation. So the first half of it, what is the scientific method? You can have that perfectly memorized. Hopefully you will. Remember, I said that's one of my really, really key things I'm looking for. The second part is being able to apply it to a situation. So I will give you an observation and you will have to apply the scientific method and propose a test. Wow, I got myself 10 minutes for lecture. Well, here's how your grades are determined at the end. We've gone through the percentages of each piece, and these are just rather standard percentages. If you're 93% or higher, I do round, so technically that's 92.5%. That's an A, and so on going down. You can see it's possible to get a D+, but let's not. It's also possible to get an F, but that shouldn't happen. As long as you do lab, you should have at minimum 20% right there from lab, right? Do the homework, do the other things. You really shouldn't be able to fail this unless you just kind of like say, I'm not going to turn stuff in. Okay, this schedule here tells you what I'm going to talk about every day. So you can see today is prologue. It also lists the homework assignments when they're due. It doesn't tell you what they are. You have to look on Moodle. So Moodle is an important companion for this class because that's where you can see stuff. Let's look at Moodle here real quick, which of course I don't have. I should have, but I don't have. Union College Moodle. Log me in. Okay. Here at the top of Moodle, that's the information for how to get your rebate on the clickers. So you have to create an account, and the top one is turn account registration. So click on there, and it guides you through how to buy your account and set it up. And then this is a PDF form for the rebate, and down below instructions for how to fill it out. And you should know, everybody should know, you get free Microsoft Office for being students, right? That's what that next link is. Okay, so we look at this class, Science 111, on Moodle. You might have it look differently. I have like my administration block off there on the side. The syllabus and the schedule are here in case you need to review, look back at them. These are some useful sites, places where you can, that Conceptual Academy is videos by the textbook author, basically covering every section of the entire textbook. So basically you can watch lectures by the author on the entire textbook at that first site. So it's a really good site. The next one is a companion site for a different textbook. You notice it's the same name. Actually, it's physical science rather than conceptual physical science, but it's written by Bill Tillery, and that has quizzes and things that you can take to practice on the topics. It's not from our textbook. The questions aren't going to be the same ones, but they're quizzing the same material. And then some other sites. Khan Academy has a lot of good information to help you if you have that kind of time. These lecture resources, if you go to the lecture slides as PDF files right now, you will see these slides that I'm using. After class, I will upload a replacement that has my annotations on. And the upper one, the lecture's on YouTube. After class, give me a little bit of time because I have another class after this. So after that class, I will upload the lecture to YouTube so you could go back and review, like, did he really say that? Did he say he was a Raider fan? Yes, he did. Here is the first homework assignment. If I click on that first homework assignment, it takes me to, here's all the questions. And so it's the first two that after today's lecture you should be able to answer. Remember, you would not just say A, yes. You would say A, yes because blah, 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 or no because blah, blah, blah. To turn these in, you have, when you come, it will look different, and you'll have a button to submit. It will actually, yeah. When you go in, you'll have a button to submit assignment, and then you just drag your PDF file and it uploads it, and make sure you hit submit at the end. My son took a class last semester in the first assignment, or second. He forgot to hit submit. Well, the teacher doesn't get it then. So make sure you remember that. So this is just laid out with each of the sections: astronomy, earth science, chemistry, and physics. Nothing in the prologue section. That's the Moodle site. Okay. So you can see when the exams are, what each lecture is going to cover. So we'll cover chapter 1 in the next 2 lectures. Chapter 2, well, 1.5 chapter 1, 1.5 chapter 2. And then 2 days in chapter 3 and 1 day from there on until we get to chemistry, where weather, where we'll take 2 days on the weather chapter. All right. Here's the academic integrity policy. You guys read that at your leisure. Let's get started. We got 7 minutes. Physics time. So there's a picture of the textbook because that's all I had. The materials that I talked about, you have the textbook, the lab guide that's not in yet, and the clickers. The material we're covering there, the elements of physical science. Brittany?
Sorry, one more question.
Yeah.
Is there a tutor section for this class?
I do not have one, but I am available. You can come be my friend. So let's get into what science is. Science is basically knowledge that has been developed through a specific way of studying nature. So in science, we're studying nature and we're studying it in a specific way. It hasn't always been this way. If you read in the textbook in the prologue there, it talks about people like Aristotle. And Aristotle thought that if something sounded like a good idea, it must be true. So based on that, Aristotle said, that mask wants to sit on the desk. It has a natural position it wants to be. And if I take it and I lift it up, what's it going to do when I let go? Fall. And he said it's going to fall down because up here it was unnatural. Its natural position was down here. And so based on that, he said, well, everything must be made up of one of four elements. Those four elements were earth, which has a natural position is down, water, which had a natural position of on top of the earth, because streams and lakes are on top of the earth, air, which had a natural position of above the water, and fire. You have a fire, the smoke goes up, flames go up. Fire had a natural position of above. And he said everything is just made up of 5% earth, 70% water, 20% air, and 5% fire. And what it does when I let go depends on its composition, how much it has of each one. That doesn't sound like something very sensible to you and me. Because Galileo came along, and Galileo is really the person that is given the credit for saying, we should probably study these things in a systematic way to see if that's really what's going on. And so Galileo was the person who really made a point of, we need to study things, and started developing this scientific method. Now, the textbook says there is no one scientific method. I don't even like this scientific method that the textbook listed because it is a little misleading with its last step. So I am going to modify what I want you to memorize rather than this. But I put here what the textbook has so we have a starting point. So what's the first part of the scientific method? The first part is being curious. If you're not curious, you're not going to have to be a scientist. You know what? Almost every child is really curious, right? You're going to go teach in a class, and children are always, well, why? Why? That's the first step in science, is having that curious mind. And so you observe something that you find curious or interesting. And then the next step, what says question here, is where you develop an answer, a hypothesis. Hypothesis is a word that basically means an educated guess. You say, well, based on my understanding of science, that's the first step in the hypothesis. It has to be based on scientific ideas. Based on my scientific understanding, I think the thing I observed occurred because of this phenomenon. So an example I love to use, is I observe that if I go to Cold Stone Creamery and I eat some ice cream, it tastes absolutely great. But if I go to the dairy and I eat ice cream at the dairy, not quite so good. Why doesn't it taste as good at the dairy? And then I come up with a scientific hypothesis, an educated guess on why. And my reasoning is, well, we know scientifically that there is a connection between your sense of taste and your sense of smell. And when you're at the dairy, you have what we like to call the derriere back when I worked at the dairy. Right? It smells pretty bad. And so that bad smell that affects your sense of taste, and you don't think it tastes so good. So that's a hypothesis. It's a scientific idea. Another step you have to have for that hypothesis is it has to be something you can test, that you could potentially show that it's wrong. In science, you can never prove something right. Our textbook actually says yes. You can't. You can never prove something right, but you can prove things wrong. And so your hypothesis has to be testable. It has to be something you could prove wrong. So it has to make predictions that you can test. It has to be based on scientific ideas, and it has to explain why your observation occurred. So it has to have those three properties. Now, the next one he has here is predict. Predict what's going to happen if you do a test, and then do the test. I combine those in one, as you'll see in my own version. So you actually take predictions of your hypothesis. Now, this is a key point that a lot of people miss. Your hypothesis is not your original observation. Your hypothesis is not, I like ice cream better at Cold Stone Creamery than I like it at the dairy. That's your observation. We assume that you made a factual measurement on that observation. So your test isn't going to be, well, let's see how many people like ice cream at Cold Stone and how many people like ice cream at the dairy. That's not testing your hypothesis. That's just going back and rechecking your observation. So your test has to be testing a prediction. So based on my hypothesis, oh, crud. We're going to finish this up next class period, turns out. So we'll start with the scientific method. Don't worry, I only had like 4 slides for today, so. And I'll see you on Wednesday.